Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're just landing here. I'm Afefe with Touch by Tarot and Beyond. So glad to be here with you on this Friday morning. Whoo, pre No King's Day, right? October 17. Wow, lots to get to today with you all. My spirit guides, I literally have been sitting here for about 45 minutes before I started taping, just trying to, organize my thoughts and get my spirit centered to do a reading for you all today on a couple of things that are really, really pressing. And also want to, just say again, I thank you all so much for being here. I really do consider this channel to be a community and a platform to build community. So I'm on this side of the camera, but you are every bit as important, on, if not more important, on that side of the camera. I appreciate your comments, your intelligence, your willingness to share information and be respectful toward one another. It just like chef's kiss to you. I really do appreciate you, and I appreciate those hypes. So from what I'm understanding, you can only hype, I think, from a phone for whatever reason. So when you go to comment on a phone, it gives you an option to hype the video. That helps the video, the algorithm on YouTube spread the video. And I really would appreciate your help on that. I'm trying to grow the channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, now that said, let's get to down to some business. A couple of things, good news sort of thing, keep it light. So we understand that the folks in Arlington, Virginia, who voted, from what I understand, over 77% for Kamala Harris. They have essentially run Stephen and Katie Miller out of town, right? They've been putting these chalk signs, no kings, etc. Nothing abrasive, but they've been, they know where he lives, and they've been putting these chalk signs outside his house for a while. So that's been going on, and they're just freaked out. They have listed their home for sale. Who knows where Stephen and Katie are headed next? I'm sure we'll hear more about that. But anyway, so Mr. Tough Guy, hate blah blah blah, like they getting some boxes and got to pack up and get out of there, and that says so much about the community in Arlington. So awesome around that. Also, we're hearing that Cankles ankles are cankling, right? That he's been complaining during press conferences he can't stand for long periods of time anymore because of those swollen ankles. And so we're going to see him increasingly. We understand that during a press conference, I think it may have been yesterday, he started whining about how long he had to stand on his feet, and looked over, I think it was at RFK Jr., like, you hear me, dude? And so RFK patted his chair like, come on over here and sit down. You ain't even got to do all that. And he did. They said he went over and just kind of plopped down in his chair to, get the weight off, right? So that's interesting for Mr., blustery whatever. Like how often, Spirit is saying, pay attention how often we will continue to see him do things in a seated position, because he can't stand. We've already seen him staggering, can't walk in a straight line. So interesting about that. Those ankles are cankling. All right. And bravo, we've got a healthcare alliance. Many of you already know a healthcare alliance is forming among, I think so far, 15 different states. Governors of 15 different states are getting together in in response to the healthcare crisis, the shutdown, the all the different things, vaccine availability, etc. So we've got 15 states, I think it's up to now, that have joined together for an alliance, a healthcare alliance. And Spirit said a while ago that we were going to see alliances begin to form around a variety of issues for the American people, especially in response to what's happening in federal government. So bravo to that. All right, you all. Want to start out today in the readings with, I need to backtrack a little bit, and I thank you all for staying on top of things, because the other day, in the wake of the announcement of the Nobel Peace Prize being awarded to this, what's her name, Machado, that Maria Machado, that's it. That I was all hyped up about it. We went to Spirit to see, Cankles was freaking out, because we know how hard he petitioned to get that Nobel Peace Prize. But many of you pointed out, I was so caught up in the fact that she was being described as a pro-democracy political figure in Venezuela, right? Pro-democracy, Latina. So my spirit was all pumped up, like, yes, not only is Cankles upset about the fact that he lost out on the prize, but he lost out to a woman who is also a Latina. And many of you pointed out and said, Fefe, Miss former reporter, check your facts, dig into her a little bit more. And sure enough, we're finding out pro-democracy didn't necessarily mean pro-democracy. That her goal, because she came out afterward, and I had to go check. I couldn't believe they said, she came out and dedicated the award to, in part at least, to Cankles. And I was like, no way, no how. Sure enough, way, and how. So here's the deal. Apparently she got on the phone, Machado got on the phone with Cankles, and we know that there is a concerted effort. Now we're hearing that we have a CIA covert operation that's been authorized in Venezuela, clearly to get rid of Nicolas Maduro, right? And so is Machado lining up with Cankles to get put in, and did they strike a deal? Was that a part of what her, tribute to him when she got said, in part, he's a reason for that prize, and that she would, give him props around that. Let's take a look at that. Is Cankles working with Machado to get her installed or voted in, or however that would work, to get rid of Maduro and help her political career? I was really shocked. The whole hardline, that ultimately she is a hardline conservative. All right. We have the Two of Swords. Yes, but they're trying to keep it hidden. And also at the bottom of the deck, you all, by the way, for my readers, I have a lot of you, the Liberation Tarot. I had to use it today, especially in light of tomorrow, the protests. Liberation Tarot. All right. Two of the blades, but Two of Swords. They're trying to keep it under wraps. They don't want that fact, the extent to which Cankles has had conversations with Machado around supporting her once they work to oust Maduro. And clearly, when we heard the announcement of the CIA having been authorized now for operations in Venezuela, that's what's happening there. But they're trying to be really careful about what news comes out around that. The second card that's at the bottom of the deck, and I'm not going to ignore it, is Judgment. And it says, you notice in this deck, they say uprising. This is to help her solidify her political career, Machado, in Venezuela. And so that is a part of, because whether it is around deportations, the whole, Venezuelan, Tren de Aragua. I'm sorry, I know I'm messing that up, but you all know who I mean. The so-called narcotics situation, blah, blah, blah. That is a part of what and I'm almost feeling like she's really pushing for that. It's not just Cankles trying to angle his way and make sure he's got someone that he thinks he can, basically treat as a puppet in Venezuela, but it's something that she wants as well. She feels like he's going to bring muscle to the situation. And we've got the portal, Wheel of Fortune, the 10. It's going to take some time. The operations that they're going to do to handle the Maduro situation, it's going to take some time, but they see that as moving toward it, ruled by Jupiter, growth, expansion of her power, Machado's power. So you all were absolutely right about that. Thank you for helping to redirect me, because I just went on a cha-cha-cha about the fact that he lost to a woman. And when I saw pro-democracy, and I did not know, and I did not do my research before I got online. So thank you all for that. All right, moving on. Do we have in addition to a governor's alliance around healthcare, you all, do we have an evolving governor's alliance with the military, especially retired military? We understand that J.B. Pritzker held a very important and powerful meeting with retired military generals across the different sectors of the military. And they showed up. They were like, absolutely, we'll come sit down with you. We'll talk about strategies and whatnot in relation to what's happening right now and the use of the military, or potential use of the military in cities across America. So J.B. Pritzker convened that meeting. They showed up. Some discussions were had, and that is essentially or especially important, Spirit is saying, because we also had, I think, just yesterday, two major announcements in the Marine Corps and the Navy. We had an opinion piece that was released in the Washington Post by, I wrote his name down, wanted to get it right in case you want to look it up, Doug Krugman, Krugman. Doug Krugman, veteran of 24 years, says he served in the Marines, served under 5 presidents. And in the wake of that tada with Hegseth and Cankles, when they called all the military leaders in, he went ahead and said, that's it. I'm not doing it. My oath is to the Constitution. Spirit has said we will see more and more of that. But the fact that he also had that opinion piece published in the Washington Post, widely read, and we know widely read by conservatives, really, really interesting dynamic there. On the heels of that, we also heard the announcement of the resignation of the Navy Admiral. What is his name? I also wrote that down. Alvin Holsey, Holsey. Alvin Holsey. He's the head of the U.S. Southern Command. Don't think he leaves until December, but he is the head of that portion of the Navy that we know all these attacks on the boats, including Venezuelan boats, right? But all the attacks on the boats in the Caribbean. We understand now that there were Trinidadians who were victims of these attacks. No proof whatsoever that this, in fact, involves some sort of, drug transportation or narcotics whatsoever. But this has been happening, and apparently this guy Alvin Holsey, this commander in the Navy, he's only been on the job in that post for almost a year. So he came on board in that position as that commander right around the time that Cankles was, in quotes, elected. So he sees the writing on the wall that these attacks are clearly illegal. He has not come out and said as much. He can't. He's still on the job until December. But the fact that he has announced his resignation as well, you all, they're calling him Pentagon Pete. Pentagon Pete, as well as some others, Spirit has been saying, when as time moves on and they get on the other side of this, these people are going to be facing prosecution for tremendous illegal acts. And so someone like this commander, Holsey, he said, I'm getting out of here. I'm not going to be the one who ultimately gets called, and faces, what would it be, a tribunal? Somebody will let me know the proper term, because I went ahead and followed these clearly illegal orders, right? So I am wondering and asking, is Cankles shopping for a replacement for Hegseth? Because Hegseth is losing any semblance of qualified leaders left and right. And this is only the beginning. Spirit has said we will see more and more of this, the more this administration pushes for this kind of military action. All right, Spirit, is Cankles shopping for Hegseth's replacement? We have the priestess. So he's trying to keep it, and pardon that expression there, they call it the horror. There is a belief in a divine aspect of that archetype. So we have the priestess here, keeping it in secret. Don't want to let that out for the time being. This is still my boy, Hegseth. This is still my boy. But also Spirit is saying, because remember, once as a cabinet appointment, and he had to be confirmed. Hegseth had to be confirmed that by Congress. Like, okay, still like, wow. But that this next person, should Hegseth go, he's got to get somebody else that he also knows is going to get through Congress, and Congress is getting a little tilted right now in terms of, at least behind the scenes, feeling more resistant to what's happening in this administration. So they're keeping it under wraps. Is he shopping for a replacement? Yes, he is. Here he comes, the establishment. This would be the emperor, right? He's shopping for a replacement for Hegseth. The writing is on the wall. There were already so many qualified people within the military who had either voluntarily resigned or have been targeted and ousted since Hegseth, or Pentagon Pete, we call him, has taken over. So the drain of qualified leaders within those ranks at the Pentagon is just completely done. We know what happened with the press corps, bipartisan, Fox News, everybody included, Newsmax, they all, collaboratively got together and walked out as a result of Pentagon Pete's demands for their complete, basically, giving up their rights to tell stories and report the truth. So that's everything around Pentagon Pete is crumbling. Everything around him is crumbling. And there's only so much time. Cankles knows that. And there's only so much time. Thank you, Spirit. The star. He's looking. He's looking for a replacement. The challenge is, who would, is it going to go from bad to worse from the frying pan into the fire with him, with the next person that Cankles would want to put forth, and knowing that he's got to get them in front of Congress and get Congress to confirm. Hegseth is his days are numbered, you all. His days are numbered. All right. Next thing. So SCOTUS, we had the initial arguments in before SCOTUS on the Voting Rights Act. And we're hearing that as a result, if they strike Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, that because then it's just going to be wholesale redistricting among the states, especially the southern states. And then you're going to have potentially up to 19, we're hearing, additional seats in the House, because as it stands right now, if nothing else is done and Prop 50 passes in California, it's definitely it's looking really, really good for the Dems to retake the House in the midterms in 2026. They are doing everything under the sun. We won't even get into the sale of Dominion voting to, what is it now, Liberty something or other, this Republican who bought that. We'll talk about that later. I get the sense there's something going to happen. Those machines are not used in all states, although they are readily used. We know that J.D. Vance has already been putting out the call to Muskrat to bring him back on board. We know what that means, but we'll talk about that later. I want to stay on track. SCOTUS, Voting Rights Act. Initial arguments were heard this week. We're told that typically a decision this big would not come down until the end of SCOTUS's term, which would be next summer. But because they want to allow time for some of these other southern states to get these maps going, they're going to do it sooner. SCOTUS's decision will come down sooner, perhaps as soon as January. I want to see, I think it's almost a foregone conclusion, horrible though it is, that Roberts court and that 6-person majority on the court, they're not backing down. They've already come out and said legal precedent is not legal precedent anymore. Legal precedent was just there at that time, but this is a new day and we don't have to hold that up anymore. So, is the Voting Rights Act going to get struck down? Spirit, settle my energy. Will the Voting Rights Act get struck down? Is SCOTUS going to strike it down? The Voting Rights Act, Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Yep, the chariot. Knew it. Done. All right? Let's go ahead and, lawsuits aplenty. We already know. Gazillion lawsuits are going to come out, but they're charging forward. They're in too deep now. At this point, they're in too deep with Cankles. So that's what is going to happen. That said, what I've been getting from Spirit, you all, is don't lose hope, or don't just okay, because Spirit, I want to make sure it's them and not me. What I'm getting, what I'm channeling. Southern states that do the redistricting and change their maps for 2026, will that actually prompt a backlash and more Republicans vote Democrat? We have the 8 of Wands. That is a really good energy. Eight of Wands being swift response. And because my question to Spirit is, does this swing voters? What Spirit is saying, you all, in a nutshell, is the guidance that I'm getting is, although it will disenfranchise, at least temporarily, Spirit is also saying that all of this will get corrected down the road as soon as the Democrats can get a toehold. This will get corrected. These maps, they will be thrown out. They will be redone. But worst case scenario, Spirit is saying, should these maps be in place and these districts, the redistricting be in place, the Nine of Cups, especially the people's will, you all, don't be surprised that while they are making, they meaning this administration, this regime, are making the wholesale assumption that if they can get these maps passed, that voters overwhelmingly will elect Republican people out of those districts. It ain't necessarily so. Because does that mean, maybe I'm wrong, things are changing, you all correct me, but does that mean that there would not be Democratic candidates in those predominantly conservative districts? Does that mean there would be no Democratic candidates? And does that mean that, and there I have the world completion, they're done with it. Some of these, but now again, not wholesale. We know that there is that very large MAGA contingent who just, again, Spirit keeps saying, can't see the forest for the trees. Be that as it may, this wholesale attempt or directive to have these maps reconfigured in the states prior to the midterms, 2026 midterms, it's gonna hit a wall. It's going to, and they will be surprised. Spirit, will we have some Democrats elected surprisingly out of traditionally red areas or red counties or red districts? We have the rebel of, they call it the rebel of spirals. That's basically the Knight of Wands. Yes, there is, and that's movement. Knights are movement in tarot. So that's a movement, like a concerted effort. And if the Democrats or Democratic candidates in some of those overwhelmingly red districts can get some decent messaging out there, right? You'll be surprised. Just as surprisingly, someone like, Spirit is reminding me, someone like a Zoran Mamdani out of New York is having quite an impact, although they don't want to admit it. He's having quite an impact on conservatives. All right, so Spirit is saying, don't lose heart, you all. When the Nine of Wands, keep pushing. Effort. It is effort. It is an uphill climb. But Spirit is saying, keep pushing. The Nine of Wands. Because it's going to feel like such a gut punch to have that powerful aspect of Voting Rights Act, the law, and everything that had to go into having a law like that passed, all the sacrifices, all of the everything that went into that, to have it struck down by this court. Yeah, but don't lose heart. Don't lose heart. The crux of it is going to be that if there are Democratic candidates within these redistrict areas, that if they're messaging and if they can get people on board and there is adequate funding to really promote their campaigns, there might be some surprises at the polls in a lot of those districts. All right. And finally, you all, I wanted to mention, can't close out Sunday for sure. I will be reading on the outcome of the No King's Day protests. We know, in addition to, we know yesterday the news broke that John Bolton has been indicted. We knew that was coming ever since they did had the warrant issued and searched his house. We knew that we know who John Bolton is. Nobody's feeling sorry for him. He does have Abby Lincoln as his attorney, same attorney for Tish James. This guy is like the biggest of the big. So, there's that's going to be an interesting fight and an interesting discovery process in the courts. And I think it's going to go on for for quite a while, because Bolton, one of the reasons he had those documents is he knew what he was doing in keeping them, and he knew that he was going to be targeted, and he knew once that search happened that it was just a matter of time before that indictment was gonna come forth. I think there's been a lot of preparation and there's going to be a lot of information that comes out as a result of this, but we'll get into him a little bit later. But I brought that up because also we're hearing now on this ever increasing target list for indictments by this administration is George Soros, right? Open Society Institute. Full disclosure, I was an Open Society fellow back in the early 2000s in Baltimore. So I've got some feelings about the Soros and his organization. I know a lot of incredible people who've done incredible work in the nonprofit sector. As a result of that, I myself was, as I said, I was a fellow with them and did some what I hope was really good work with youth in the Baltimore area. But that said, now he's on the target list. Why? Because now we hear Pam Bondi coming out and saying, well, this No Kings thing, like who's paying for the signs? Who's paying for the transportation? Who's paying, these things do take money, right? It's a grassroots organization, but primarily run by nonprofits. And while we are hearing at the latest report, up to almost 27,000 sites have been listed as places where they're going to have the protest tomorrow, there are over 200 organizations, most predominantly nonprofit organizations that are behind this as well. Indivisible being one of the primary organizers of the No Kings Day protest. And who is one of the major donors to Indivisible? You guessed it, George Soros Foundation, right? So it all comes together. But here's what I'm getting. This is actually just as we are seeing the Health Alliance Coalition among the governors, what Spirit has said is going to be governors and military personnel, retired or otherwise, coalitions building there to address that issue. I am getting that we're going to have more coalitions between established nonprofits and the protest movements, that they are going to take hold. And I saw some articles that said, these nonprofits like locking arms with one another to become bigger, because every we are stronger together, right? That was one of Kamala's sayings. We are stronger together. Spirit, will we see an increased pushback and growth among coalitions of nonprofits? Yes, indeed, we will. Here comes the star, Pluto in Aquarius. Very, very impactful in the months to come. And Uranus also rules the star. So yes, it is a process. It is step by step, but it is also eyes on the prize. And there's something, again, I'll get back on here with you all on Sunday, but there is something electric that happens when, even facing threats, these organizations and all the money and history behind, Soros his organizations have been doing, and their various pockets have been doing this work for decades. And so the idea that because of these threats and bullying, that what's happening is that locking arms image really, really struck. 50501, Indivisible, the ACLU has, and many, many other unions throughout the country are standing behind it with that star that is by the people, for the people, among the people, and the people joining. I'm going to pull a couple more cards on that, because what they want to do, you all, is target the money. The Two of Pentacles, partnerships. Two of Pentacles, partnerships, locking arms, because what they're talking about is, and this is in general, even for Democratic candidates and donors, high dollar donors for 2026, what they want to do now is try to attack the money. If you can attack the money, you can impact the ability to organize and put on these types of events. And that's what Bondi was getting at. Who's paying for their signs? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? It's not about Antifa. It's about these nonprofits who are established, who have mechanisms, who have the organizational capacity to fund these sorts of things, and the dollars to fund these sorts of things. That's what they're going after. But we see them locking arms. All right, you all. Hope that was helpful. Gotta close it out like we normally do, right? Chin up. For sure, chin up. Shoulders back. Get all the information you can. If you're going to participate in the, around the country tomorrow, get your information, stay safe, keep your eyes around you. The instigators, Spirit has said they're going to send some instigators out there, but there are already preparations made that they will be surrounded, pointed out. You are not one of us. Like nobody, people are not stupid. And at this point, I think the efforts of catching people flat-footed and catching them by surprise will not happen. I think we're going to see a whole lot of interesting, frog and penguin costumes tomorrow. We're going to hear a lot of music, a lot of dancing. It's really going to be a historic day. So I'll check in with you all on Sunday and we'll talk about some of that. Take really good care. Please remember to hit that like button. That helps the algorithm as well. That like, subscribe if you haven't already, and hype it if you can. I really appreciate you. I'll talk to you real soon. Bye.